Good morning, and we are live. Well, this is a bit strange as I'm looking at my own YouTube channel for some stupid reason. Oh, okay. A moment. Normally, when there's a live stream queued up, it shows up on my channel instead of the, at least as far as I can tell, is instead of the introductory video. And today it didn't. Today it where's the live stream? But now that I'm live, I went and checked it again, and it seems to be showing. So that means that we are successfully live with 2 concurrent viewers. Oop, just turned into 3. Okay, so let's get to it since you're all out there waiting with bated breath to see what the heck are we going to do today. Well, yesterday we knocked out this shot, which was quite a lot of fun. A fair amount of frame-by-frame animation. We learned how to use a formula in the function editor to introduce some camera shake. Not actually camera shake, just shake this character when he's all upset and whatnot. So we'll have to dial that in. I don't know if I'll get to that in this session, but my goal in this session, as you can see from the title, is to look at using a vector levels primarily, not completely, but primarily to knock out a background on this shot. So right out of the gate, it's tempting to just put the background painting in its own sub-X sheet or sub-scene. The problem with that, of course, being that you lose your perspective in terms of where the characters are. In many cases, that's fine. You know what the background painting is going to be. In this case, I think we want to be a little more measured. So I'm going to hit Insert and put in a new column, and this is going to be a vector level. Now, I've mentioned this in other videos, but one of the things about vector levels that are different from other than obviously being vectors, which are, of course, a scalable and editable bunch of shapes. The other thing about vector levels is you have the ability to stack up multiple shapes on top of each other. And in my case, I tend to use transparency to my advantage in that regard. So, that said, what do we do? Well, what we'll do, and by the way, I'm going to just mention here, if normally auto close, auto group, and auto fill filled in, that gives us the ability to just draw a shape that fills itself. Now in this case, we basically got a color something like this. It's basically a muted pink, somewhat pushing towards burgundy. Now I can see another problem, with having all these layers together, but I think that's mitigated by just turning the sketch off, because the problem is that the sketch is actually opaque. It's not transparent, so it's going to foul up our picture of what the colors are. So if we go like this, and then maybe crop to the camera view, that gets us in a good place where we can kind of see what we've got. Now, one thing I want to do here, this is where the idea of, well, let me put it this way. When you're thinking about painting with vectors, one of the considerations is that I'm kind of bumping into here to right now is that I want to basically add another color that's white, more or less, and put in this indicator of where the gap is in the tent doorway that we see from the sketch. Ultimately, he reaches over and grabs it and flings it open. Okay, so actually, based on what I'm seeing there, let me see here. I want to be careful I don't have a dyslexia moment. Yeah. So what I want to do actually is, let me hit the selection tool and see if that does the trick. Yeah. And one thing I'll just apologize here for is that being mildly dyslexic, I can look at this and know whether I want to move it to the left or the right. And then when I go up here and go to do it, I have to, it's hard for me to, well, did I need to move it to the left or the right? I need to move it, and I'm going to say it verbally so I don't forget. I need to move it to the left because you can see his hand's in the wrong place, right? So with that in mind, I'll just go up here, select this, and I said left, so we'll move that over to the left and actually just kind of stretch it a bit. And so that's really the only thing in the shot. Yeah, there we go. That's perfect. This is the only thing in the shot that I kind of need there as sort of a marker. And so what I was starting to allude to is that once I start layering up color and whatnot to make this look the way it's supposed to look, it could be that I'll be sort of stepping on top of that little thing there, and it may become problematic. So I may just take it back out, right? And actually, if I go back to this view, it wouldn't be a horrible idea in this case to just go like this, so that this will be easy to grab if I need to grab it later and either take it out or whatever. Now, when I was talking about painting with vector levels in general and sub-scenes, my point was that you know, use the levels to your advantage. In this case, I probably could go ahead and create a sub-scene now. So I'm going to collapse it. When I collapse it, that turns it into a sub-scene. And then when I go into it, all I have is the painting. And the reason you would do that is so you can go ahead and add other layers if you want to. Now, again, one of the advantages of vector levels is that you don't actually have to put it on a multitude of levels because you do have the ability to stack things up. But if you have any possibility that you're going to want to edit it downstream, you might want to just go ahead and break it up into layers. The other advantage you have is if you put it on separate layers, you can actually go into your schematic and change the blending modes of those layers so that you might, for example, you might not want to use normal mode. You might want to use, what I typically do is I'll get this whole thing painted, and then I'll actually add a raster level that's just a paint level using the My Paint brushes, and then use my airbrush to just put a gradient in it and overlay that, use overlay mode to sort of comp that onto the overall painting, if you want to call it that, and it just makes everything pop more. It makes the colors a little more saturated, and it gives you some variation in color across the screen. So these are all things to consider. So if I wanted to, if I said, hey, I'm going to take the multi-layer approach here, and before I go too much further, I'll mention one other thing. The other thing would be that in this scene, as you can see here, he turns around and flings this open. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just, this is all going to be, this movement of the canvas or the opening of the tent is all going to just be done on another level that's just overlaid over top of the background and hides. So this will all become very bright, you know, as he flings it open, and we'll just cover it up. So we're not going to concern ourselves with the fact that the background gets animated. For our purposes, it's a static background. So I'm going to go down into the sub-X sheet. If you don't know how to do that, you would go open subscene, which for me is the control down arrow. Okay, so to make this as kind of quick and easy as possible, one of the things I would do, by the way, as I've been known to say from time to time, identify yourself. We've got 5 or 6 concurrent viewers and nobody has weighed in on the chat yet, so I'm just kind of wondering who's here. Actually, no, I'm not. Strike that. I'm not going to make a duplicate. What I am going to do, let me check something here. Okay, I didn't create the level. So I need to create another vector level. There we go. And I'm not using colors 1 and 2. I won't get into why, but so we'll make that 10% opaque, mostly transparent. And then let's do it yet again. And this one is going to be white, but mostly transparent. So now what that gives me the ability to do is have one level that just defines the overall local color of the stuff, the shapes, the things in the scene that I'm going to put in there. And then these two levels, what they do for me, I'm just going to stretch this down, down, down. Excuse me. What these levels do for me is give me the ability to just work in highlight and shadow areas. So because this is black, sorry, I did not mean to do that. I want to hit the B key. What I'm going to do is to my heart's content, right? And so this can be very simple because ultimately, as I mentioned earlier, there's going to be a gradient over the whole thing to sort of give it a variation in color right across the whole screen. So what we have here is a background painting that's going to come together very, very, very quickly. That I didn't like. I need to have that be a little finer granularity. And by the way, you can go like this so that it sort of trips over itself. In other words, if I go like this, you see what happens. So you can actually use that to your advantage. Just put in some variations if you want to. But this idea of just building up layers of transparent color, I mean, in oil painting or whatever, that's what, when you're doing what's called glazing, that's really all you're doing. You're just adding, you're just building up layers of highly transparent color. And there you go. I mean, that was pretty quick and easy, right? So now what I'm going to do is, since I've got this black color that is mostly transparent, I'm going to go ahead and put in some little bit bigger shapes here to just kind of drive home the idea that as we move away from the doorway, the lighting is more muted, right? So that's pretty simple. And can I honestly believe that I'm actually just about done with my shadow level? So now I'm going to go over here and to this highlight level, and what I'm going to do is really just the opposite. I'm just going to add some layers of highlight just to kind of punch up the fact that right at that doorway, obviously the light bleeding through is going to impact that cloth a little more. Now, again, one of the advantages, therefore, of using not just a vector level, but this would work on a, if you built up a painting with smart raster levels, you get the same basic effect. In that, you have the ability, excuse me, to modify your colors after the fact. So how is that useful? Well, if you want to punch up the contrast, just make these tint colors maybe a little more opaque. Now I'm going to leave them at 10. I'm actually pretty happy with it. And I can always use a post effect. I can always use like curves or levels or whatever to dial in the contrast if I want. So that's not that important. Okay, so I'm a little gobsmacked here. Am I actually done with my painting for the most part? I think I am. So let's turn this drawing off. And so now I'll say that while we're here, let's just actually add another vector level on the top level scene. And I don't think this is going to be animated at all, but this is basically just a silhouette of Tianara in the background, or the foreground. So I'm just going to kind of draw that shape. And then we can always again, you know, dial that color in a little bit at any point in time. So there it is. Probably something like that, sort of a dark charcoal kind of color. Okay, so having said that, we have this done, and the only other thing would be like some accoutrements that might be hanging from the ceiling. Because if we go back to some of these earlier shots, let me just scan through here. I'm clicking on Vegas, my editor, in my other screen, and we see that there is a lot of, there's like some other colored banner stuff, and this looks pretty rough because it's been deliberately posterized, and this painting needs some work. It's not ready for prime time, definitely not. But if we go back here, this background, which we're kind of building on this idea today, This was done again, if I recall correctly, with vector levels as well. Same thing. All right. So let me go back to, I think the shot where Vespar enters the tent might be an interesting. Yeah, I mean, actually, all we really saw was the curtain. So with that, I would say let's just jump back here to Tahoma. And okay, yeah, I'm a little weirded out. Why do we have absolutely nothing in the chat today? That's really, I mean, it's not a big deal, but it is kind of unusual. Normally, somebody chimes in a little quicker than this, so that's a little strange. But anyway, nobody wants to identify themselves. So I'm going to say in this case, one would be I could actually add another level of highlight and shadow on top of this one. Or if in some cases, this situation is probably not the best for it, but I could actually put this here and then I would have to do a little erasing on these two levels in order to deal with the highlights and shadows here. So let's kind of do this for fun and see how it goes. What was the color on those? Let me see. I want to go to the super wide shot. So basically you had a red banner with a green sort of hanging under it. Okay, so fine. So with that, I'm going to say we will use draw under for this, and I'll show you why. So what I'm saying is we've got basically red, and you can see how the highlights and shadows are just going to really look stupid, and it's going to require a lot of erasing, so it doesn't make any sense to do that. But what I can do, on the other hand, is duplicate this color and move it over to the green, and then by clicking draw under, the other shapes will appear under the red ones. So there's that. Now again, let's kind of dial in our color a bit. It's pretty saturated. I would think, yeah, I want it to be more of a burgundy and mostly in shadow. Okay, and so then what I'm going to do is go ahead and just add one more level over top of it. Well, actually, in this case, I'll do it the other way. I'll put this on the same level. So now I'm going to go add white. This is going to be a little harsher, I think. Let's go to 15% transparency. And then the idea here would be to just kind of catch some of these edges. Oops, I've still got draw under turned on. So we'll undo that. And just catch some of these. Apparently my transparency level didn't take, but that's okay. So there's that. I'm going to say probably a little bit here. I want to keep this on the simple side. Yep, we're going to want to lighten up that highlight. It's a little bit too aggressive. IMHO. So yeah, let's go back to 15%. Yeah, that's probably about right. If we look at it rendered, looks okay. So let's go ahead and just sort of catch a little bit of those rim lights. You know, or highlights, I guess you'd say, right there. It's catching the light, and then we'll just add another color that, again, likewise is just black, so that we can. And what's happening right now, by the way, is it's kind of a nice thing. On the vector levels, I can see what I'm doing, like right now while I'm drawing. I can see it happening, but I'm also in fully rendered mode, so it sort of blinks for a minute and then goes ahead and processes what it's really going to look like when it's rendered. So pretty useful. Okay, so another thing that I have been doing lately a lot is going into my scene settings and making sure that this is enable column color filter and transparency for rendering. That way, whatever transparency there is in these levels propagates through to the final render. Now in this case, we kind of have an exception to the rule that makes it a little problematic, which is that because my highlight and shadow are on the same level, in order to get rid of these slight highlights around the edges, I would have to grab these shapes and give them a line thickness of 0. So I'm going to go ahead and do that because there's nothing about this level where that wouldn't be a desirable thing. So I'm going to basically just change right here. I'm going to just change my line thickness to 0, and that gets rid of the border edge, if you will. So, okay, so there's that, and I would also say that here I should probably turn this back off. Here I think we could probably dial in the shadow color a little bit darker, and also, why don't we actually... Okay, I want to be careful because he's going to be opening this up, so the tent's going to swing out about this far. But basically, from about here down, we could go ahead and do something like this too, so that these other items on the ceiling are sort of causing a bit of a shadow situation going off in the distance. Now, how accurate that is to physically the way the light and shadows would work, I'm not really sure. But and now, having done that, I'm feeling like the choice I made on the density of those colors is a little bit too strong. Because remember, you can always layer it up. So let's just say let's say I stick with my 15. Okay. Well, now just maybe do another level of shadow just to, you know, drive that home a little bit, right? So there we go. That works pretty well. Okay, and then again for the background painting, the other thing I'm going to do is add a raster level. And again, wow, how is it that we have 6 people but no live chat? I'm seriously wondering, guys, if I have like live chat disabled for some stupid reason. Sometimes YouTube is a little funny on how it copies. Yeah, according to this, the live chat's enabled, so I don't know why everybody's so quiet today. It's a little weird. Okay, so I'm going to create a raster level on top here, and I'm going to use my airbrush. So again, I'm just going to use black. Hit the B key. Let's make it pretty big. Something like that. And just ease this in. Ease it in. And now we can deal with the blending modes. We can deal with individually in this sub scene. So you're going, what? What did you just say? Okay. What I mean is, if I hit F3 to select my sub scene, I can actually, one of the cool things about sub scenes is the schematics are all separate. So you're not going to get your scene jumbled up with 10 million nodes, you know, if you keep things compartmentalized the way I'm doing. So my point was that this level, I'm going to use layer blending mode overlay. And okay, so basically what we want to do is we want to take the gradient and overlay it over top of actually the entire rest of the scene. Okay, so this is wrong. This is wrong. This is the whole scene other than the gradient. We put it in an overlay blending mode node. And now when we render, we get the effect of the overlay blending mode. So everything looks pretty good. And we can save our work. And now we can rise up out of this shot. And I think Tahoma's a little bit frozen because it's saving. Yeah, if I right mouse click, nothing happens. So, okay. So just for the record, for those who are wondering, you would close the sub scene, which for me, I think of it as coming up out of it. So I control up as my hotkey for that. Okay, so now having done all that, we can pretty much turn the background, or the sketch, the initial sketch can be turned off completely. And now what we want to do is look at the animation aspects. So in this case, I think what I'm going to do is I want to keep the overall look and feel the same as the background painting, so I'm going to go ahead and do it on a vector level. Okay, so here's a vector level, and we don't need to do anything until we get down here to where he whips around. Let's put this out of preview mode. And we want to go to right about here. Okay, so right here, that all happens within one frame, so it's basically frame 51. So what we'll do is we'll just take this drawing and put it on frame 51, and then it will have to be animated. Okay, because he flings it open, and then we've got another key, and then we're back to the original background painting. So there's actually only two drawings here that have to happen. Okay, so there's a couple ways we could do this. It seems to me that the simplest path here would be to sample the background or the outdoor color. And remember, it's really bright outside, so the idea that the background would be completely blown out as far as the outdoors is fine. You know, it can be blown out. So therefore, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to hit the brush, and we're going to just go ahead and put a shape here that's the same color as the background, and now we'll just massage over top of it to make it look good. Okay, which in practice means I'm going to sample probably this mid-tone, and then let's just get this kind of lapping over his hand like so. And we'll go ahead and add a little bit more detail there. And then I'm thinking, now that we've got that in there, again, the wonderful thing about a procedural palette is we can go ahead and now just dial it down till it looks good, you know? Dial it down till it looks good. And I say, well, wait a minute. I like the contrast about here in this area, but this isn't bright enough. That's okay. We got two options. We can do another highlight layer like we did before, or we could actually sample the pinkish color and you know, actually smack down the actual exact color we want. So now that's actually having too strong of an effect as well. I want to really be able to just layer it up, and yeah, that looks pretty good. So we'll go like this, kind of the same thing there, and then let's do the same thing with the darks so that we can actually crunch this shadow area. This would definitely be pretty high contrast at the point that he opens the doorway. So again, to reiterate, for the background to be totally blown out is fine, because remember, we're going to actually apply the bloom effect anyway. So that means we got this. Okay, so we're going to go to frame 55, and now we're just going to rinse and repeat, as they say. So let's get this in here. Again, it's just one frame. Now we'll kind of give this a sense of cloth kind of flopping around. Oops. I probably want that one to extend down a little bit. So sometimes you want to be a little more careful. Sometimes you don't need to so much. It just depends. Okay. And he's literally gone on the next frame. So somewhat astonishingly, yeah, it was that quick. Okay, there you go. So there's our background. Our background painting is done. The background painting is animated. Wow, half an hour to knock out a background painting. I have to say, guys, doing background paintings with vector levels seems to be mainly because of this technique of just building up glazes of transparency. Man, it's fast. I really been liking that technique. I'm seeing one thing I want to improve. Yeah, probably on this level, I would say I'm kind of feeling like I want to see a little bit more of a shadow here. Yep, this one I'm going to leave alone because it's going to get animated, and so we don't want to have to like dink around with lots more keyframes. But I think, yeah, that looks better. So, sehr gut, sehr gut. So again, I say, who is here? Identify yourself. Why is no one chatting today? I feel so lonely. Lonely, I say. Lonely. All right. Okay, so let's go through and start fixing a few things. Right here, we got this effect. On that level, yep, okay. On his eyes level, and this color. I think the mistake I made here is that this is actually the whites of his eyes, and these little effects were colored with the same color. So what I'm going to do is add a new color. Let's just make it bright red for the moment. And then I'm going to hit the fill tool in freehand mode so I can lasso stuff. But what I'm going to paint is lines. So now if I put a lasso around these guys, they're going to, oops, I made a little boo-boo there. I caught a little bit of his eye. Okay, so there's that. And then on this drawing, same situation. And then all the rest are the same. Or they're repeats, I should say. Okay, so now let's kind of dial in that color a little bit. And you know what? I think that the one on the right should be more reddish, and the one on the left should actually be more yellowish. So I'm going to do the same thing I just did, hit the fill tool and lasso these guys, and then I'm actually going to fill these areas as well. So that takes care of that. Now this is a little problematic because it is kind of hard to see. So I think in this case, probably what we want to do is make this solid. So it's a little off from your traditional anime veins popping, because it's in the wrong place, because obviously his doesn't make a lot of sense for his veins to be popping if we can't see his skin that well. So there may be a bit of a judgment call involved here. So I'm curious. I'm really wondering if anybody is like trying to chat and not able to. It's very strange. I've never seen this happen before. But I usually don't change my live stream settings too much. And today I did because I wanted to change the title. So I'm just kind of wondering if maybe there's something wacky going on with the live stream. Let's just clean this up. While we're here, let's clean it up a bit. Yep, clean it up. Clean it up, no big deal. There we go. There we go. Okay, so now let's rewind and just kind of look at what we've got. Boom. Okay. I like it. Feeling pretty good about it. Now we need to deal with the camera shake. And in order to deal with the camera shake, what we need to do, the easiest way to deal with it, I should think, would be to take the character and his shadow and once again bake them down into a sub-X sheet. So don't get freaked out by the fact that the shadows look dark now. In rendered mode, we're still in good shape. Okay, so doesn't matter. We'll smack down here, and yeah, okay. It looks like I forgot to put his eyes in the sub scene. So this is where labeling would be kind of useful. We'll call well, actually, let's explode the sub-X sheet. Exploding it means kind of undo the collapse into a sub-X sheet. And now I want to look at, yeah, there's his eyes. So actually these 3 levels need to be packed down into a sub-X sheet. Okay. So why did we do that? I did that so that we can create an animation key here. I would say here. I'm just going to wiggle this a little bit so it puts a keyframe in there. It's really not what I prefer to do. What I really want to do is put in a global key and actually just click here so that I'm not having to actually move it. I don't really want to have to actually move it. Okay, so we're going to go from here to here, okay, until that stops. So I'm going to put in another keyframe, and it is animating the position. So now I have to basically remember what I learned how to do yesterday. I'm going to check something. This is kind of bugging me. I'm going to go in another YouTube. Okay. I see what's going on, guys. Just so you know, for some stupid reason, YouTube is not showing the live chat in my preview window. That is so crazy. I've never seen that happen. So yeah, the only way I can see the live chat, this is crazy, is to actually, like a user, go over here, mute myself, and okay, so now, okay, so I'm sorry guys, I've never had this happen where YouTube Studio, if you look at it here, nothing's showing in the live chat. I wonder if you have to. Yeah, I'll be darned. I've never seen that happen. Very, very weird. But okie dokie. It's not a tragedy though, because now I have the live stream open in another window. And so anyway, thank you, Tom, Maria, Smoggen11, welcome. MD Square. Whatever your question is, I'll see if I can answer it here, my friend. So I want to learn. Can you help me out? Can you be more specific? MD Square. What is it you're wanting to learn? Hey Pen. So if you're wanting to learn generally about OpenToonz and Tahoma animation, then you're gonna get the real world, you know, kind of pragmatic look at cranking out animation here on my channel. But go to this channel, Darren T. If you hunt and peck, you're going to have to search the channel probably quite a lot to find specific answers. Now, you can post a question. You can, of course, go ahead and post a question in the chat. And this actually came up yesterday. If you, if you ask a question, we have the ability to answer it, then we certainly will. So what do we got going on here? Tom, nice. No, there's always a way. There's always a way around the problem, right? So I'm here. It'll be interesting to see though if somebody, just for my enrichment, somebody post a message. I want to see if the actual feed is frozen in some way or something. It's very strange. I've never seen YouTube do this before. So. But hey, man, people have technical issues from time to time. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the function editor for column 4, which is, of course, our sub-X sheet. So let's name it intelligently. We'll call this Vespar, since that's his name. And that way it's actually labeled here on the function editor. And now what I have to do is remember how we did this yesterday. I believe what we were dealing with was X, Y, and Z position. And what we want to do is grab You butchered my user. Okay, yeah, everything's working, guys. Thanks. Smogin11, you butchered my user. I don't even know what that means. What does that mean? That doesn't make any sense. All right, expression interpolation. And now, sad as it might be, I have to remember what the... Was it 101 was like kind of a good starting point? I just don't remember. I'm going to put in 101 and see what happens. Let's see if we... Yeah, if we expand this. I just don't remember what the... I'm actually going to just put in random 1 out of curiosity to see if it does anything. But, yeah, because unfortunately, Tom, if you can, do me a big favor. If you have an idea of what would be an appropriate expression here, put it up on the chat, and I'll just cut and paste it, because the window that has the link to the post Darren did yesterday about the expression, the randomized expression, if you will, I don't have that tab open anymore. So if you can post something that says, hey Dave, yeah, just try, use this expression, that would be awesome. Okay, so now we could do it manually, of course. The main thing about doing it manually is, what we could do is we could say, let's just, okay, this is interesting. Yet another thing that I've never seen happen before. Oh, I know why. It's because the x-axis is locked effectively by the function. Okay. That's interesting. Makes sense, though. So if we grab this, and right mouse click, it's set to expression interpolation. And so now I need my expression, and it's kind of interesting. Yeah, I'm trying to still do your photo is blocking the cell. Oh, you know what? That's a great point. Sorry. Let's jump over to Vegas, and for now, we'll just turn off the webcam. So, yeah, sorry about that. Oh, dear. Dave, how do you even function in the real world, man? How do you even deal with it? How do you get to be that goofy? Okay, so yeah, my question, Tom, if you know, would be, what would be an appropriate expression to just get a reasonable level of shake? And then I'm going to have to apply that to the y-axis as well. Okay, yeah. Okay, so let's just slap this in here and see how it goes. So I'm going to take what Tom put on the clipboard, or on the chat, I should say. Paste that baby in there. Thank you, sir. Let's apply it. And ooh, that's pretty. That is pretty. That is a pretty wide range of noise. Okay, so I'm going to actually copy that back to the clipboard. So what I'll do is I'm going to move this screen up, or I should say move this window up to the other screen so we can kind of see what's going to happen here. Okay, that's not too bad at all. Is it fast enough? Good question. Let's find out. Let's just hit the play button and see. Okay, by the way, I don't want this key in here. Okay, let's do this. Let's and again, thanks guys. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do the same on the y-axis. So the procedure here is grab the is that Y? Not sure here. Y is not oh, okay. Y is actually up here. And it looks like we don't have another key. So I'm going to go ahead and just click. I'm going to control click. By control clicking, I agree it needs to be stronger. So we'll have to experiment to see how one makes it stronger. So let me just jump back over here because it's a little easier for me to see. Okay, so this is an interesting exercise that hopefully will pay off in a big way. So what we do is we grab the extents and actually click on the line. Once we click on the line, we can change it to expression interpolation, and then we can now I have the same issue I had yesterday where it doesn't want, I can't remember what I did. Let me apply that. That didn't work. So I've selected this. It's set to expression. I change it to expression here. And so now what I'm doing is just conscientiously making sure I change it to expression here as well. Like if I change it to linear and then back to expression, let's see what happens now. Yeah, it still will not let me type. So there is something strange. I'm clicking on the different ends of it to see if there's something, and I'm clicking away. Now I'm clicking just the, okay, if I click just the bar, let me see what happens if I click this one. Okay, so that selects the section in between and effectively the two. Yeah, and I'm not, obviously Z doesn't matter for what we're doing, but what the biggest thing I've noticed that I noticed yesterday about this solution to the problem is, in fact, that the that you go to do it and it doesn't actually let you type, which is weird. Okay, so what I just did was I put in another node, so that now what I'm going to do is on this one, since this one I think will let me type, I'm just going to say, what we've got is we've got a range of 1. So I'm guessing the third term is probably the 1. So let's just put in a 3 and see what happens. Yep, that did it. Okay, so what we want is random P 103. Just for fun, let's put a 5 in here and see what it does. Frankly, when I'm doing programming related stuff, this is actually how I often do it. Is I look at algorithms and then begin to grok step by step kind of what's actually going on. So I would say this could be interesting for fun. We'll put in -1. Yeah, it did exactly what we expected. So let me slap this back up on the other screen and see how that looks. So yeah, that's more extreme. It's really not quite fast enough though. So what I need to do is figure out how the expression terms affect the speed. Once I figure it out, it'll be something I can use to my heart's content. So essentially, let me do this one again. I'm gonna put a 5 in here and see what that does. Okay, so the second term is an offset. So that's generally going to be 0. The second term seems to offset the whole deal. So I'm guessing the first term has to do with the level of randomness. So I'm going to make that a 5. Okay, small or larger numbers actually smooth the curve. So this should be like 0.2. Yep, okay. So your first term is noise level, your second term is an offset, which you won't use that often, and then your third term is amplitude. Okay? So I'm actually going to put that in the chat. So random P X Y Z equals random P noise level offset amplitude, or how strong it is. You could say strength. Okay, so that's what we're doing. That seems to be precisely what we want it to be. So this, I would say again, we want a level of noise of 0.1. I know it was 0.2 before, but just for fun, I'm going to make it a little bit stronger. It's interesting because what we're seeing here would suggest that here what we really want to do is actually use the offset. Because this is, to a degree, I would call this a flaw in the expression, or the algorithm actually. Because if your offset is 0, then you would think it'd be centered and it would give an equal level of noise on either side of the 0 line. Okay, that's my opinion. Other people might disagree. But the problem you have with the way the algorithm works is that if you add a greater level of noise, it doesn't even matter if it's in the plus or minus direction. Okay, so we could say our volume is going to be 3. The problem is that you're always going to have to actually use the offset. Now there may be a variation of it. There may be a variation of the function that actually accommodates that and effectively centers it. But in this case, your general case would be that you would want to have a second term or amplitude that is precisely 1/2 of your amplitude. Your offset, therefore, would be 1.5 because what you're doing is you're recentering the curve, and that did not work. I'm sorry, it would be negative 1.5. If the first term is positive, or I'm sorry, if the third term is positive for the amplitude, then the second term needs to be negative. Okay, so now I can actually, can I edit this? Here we go. I want these to be 0, actually. I want these values to be 0. There's no reason for them to actually have any value, and it's a little annoying to discover that when I change them, they don't actually change. It's like, why give me the ability? Maybe I need to set a key there. Didn't work. Okay, no, that said, oh, I'm on the wrong frame. My bad. Okay, so I'll delete that. My bad. So it isn't, this is important, guys. It's not enough to grab the node on the curve. You have to actually be on that frame. Okay, so there's something else we've learned. So now if I hit 0, it resets it. Okay, this smart as one might hope, but it is what it is. So what we've got to do here is, so now this, and it keeps jumping around, it's so stupid. That's stuff like that really gets on my nerves. Okay, if I click this, okay, let's try a control click to manually set a node. Doesn't seem to work. So I'm on the X. Yeah, this is not good because the only solution seemed to be to hit undo, which I did. Okay, so now what we have is this is again set at the wrong value. I find it almost intolerable that we don't have the ability to grab one of these nodes and drag it around. It seems so obvious that intuitively that is what you would want to do. It seems like I remember there's a way to do it, but golly, why does it have to be so hard? Okay. So we have to live with the offset because everything I've tried actually winds up taking 10 times as long as just doing this by brute force. My point being that right now we have the right amplitude. We've got an offset that's negative. That's half the amplitude in the opposite direction in order to keep the curve centered. So now the question is, how much noise do you want? Because I took one of the keyframes out, the level of noise, it appears, got spread over double the length of time. Therefore, we need to introduce more noise into the curve. Okay? Which kind of non-intuitively means a smaller number, not a larger number. I'm actually thinking 0.05. And we got to hit apply. And that did basically nothing. I didn't expect that. I did not expect that. So maybe it's puking on 2 levels of decimal places. I don't know. I'm going to put 0.1. And it doesn't appear, I think I'm wrong. It does not, what if this is 0? Okay, and what if this is 1? Almost no change? This is definitely strange. I thought that, yeah, so a high number smooths it out. And so maybe this isn't the noise level. Maybe this is simply the seed. I think it is, actually. And that's bad. Yeah, that's actually bad. Okay, why is that bad? It's bad because it means that upping the level of density of noise appears to probably not be possible because I think we have a seed, an offset, and an amplitude. So the only way that we could increase the level of noise is actually to add new keyframes. so that we run the same function on each of these separately, and that does not have any effect either. So this is very bad, because it means that the noise level inherent in this noise function is not really editable. You can make it stronger, but you can't make it faster. Does that make sense? Actually, that does make sense. Strike what I'm saying. I'm wrong. You know why? Okay, I know my flaw here. Period. Okay, period. Okay. Yes. Minimum and maximum. I think I like my description better. Hey, Edgex. Yeah, offset and amplitude strength makes more sense to me, but I will say that I'm wrong. And the reason I'm wrong is because actually what's happening here is it has to choose a discrete value per frame. It doesn't do me any good to have a bunch of noise that actually happens between frames, because you'd never see it, right? It has to decide what the value is on each individual frame. So this is fine. So it would appear to me that the solution is to just crank the amplitude. So in my case, I'm going to say, let's go ahead and get rid of this key. Delete, delete. We're going to grab this, and what I actually want to do is crank the amplitude a bit. Let's crank it up to, let's say, 5. Let's make the minimum, therefore, -2.5. And that's all we can get, and that's fine. So now I'm going to grab the Y. I'm going to grab the Y curve. And sorry, my bad, folks. I should have got to do the right things in the right order here. So I'm going to grab this, Control C, grab the Y curve, grab it like that, change this to, and it won't let me. Yeah, some real interface issues, just where I think, you know, it's just one of those things that the devs haven't gotten to yet. Because I mean, I'm actually starting to feel like, you know, you're going to get period meaning the length of time for the effect. Well, you would think so. That's what you would think. The problem being that when I turned the period down to a number sufficiently low, it did not appear to be smacking the noise expression into a smaller. I guess that makes sense though, because it still has to resolve the noise function to some discrete level at every frame. So what we have here is actually correct. The biggest problem we have right now is that it's, you know, there's some real interface deficiencies here. The whole idea that you grab the curve and there's some other magic trick, there's something you don't know that you should know, that you need to know to be able to just freaking paste something in, is a little goofy. So I just hit paste and nothing happens. You know, what's the magic here? What is it that everybody should know, but no one knows because it's so non-intuitive that you'd never guess it? That's the problem here. What the heck's going on? What's the secret? Is it to grab the dot? No. Is it to grab the other dot? No. Is it to grab the bar? No. Is it to click away and then click it? No. Why would expression interpolation be the only thing that's turned off? Don't know. So at this point, we've just so you guys know, because I am the pragmatic animator, I will say that I have definitely passed the point of diminishing returns where what I'm trying to do, I could have done manually with brute force, just setting keyframes, and it would have been done at least 10 times faster. So this is not a big win so far, mainly just because of the interface. How do I actually do what it's telling me I can do? You know, if I click this one, expression interpolation, I can see where it would be grayed out because it's already set to interpolation, or to expression interpolation. This one, you know, do you click away and then click it on to sort of wake it up and tell it what you're trying to do? Do you need to start typing? Nope. Do you need to apply it first and then change it? Yep, that's it. Okay, that's so far beyond stupid I can't describe it. Sorry guys, but not trying to be too snarky here, but I'm feeling a little snarky about that. That's the sort of thing I describe as indescribably stupid. So you're on expression interpolation. You have to apply an expression that doesn't exist so that you can then edit it. And by the way, just for the record, just so you know, cutting and pasting doesn't actually work. Now it might work if you use the stupid buttons to do it. Grr. Grr. Yeah. Yeah. So Control V doesn't work. Really? Really? That's what we're going to do, huh? Okay. Wow. Okie dokie, people. Okay, so we got the same noise on both axes, and let's see how it feels. It's too big. Okay, that's fine. Not sure what that keyframe is, but I probably inadvertently added that in the expression editor. So this key right here needs to come down to here. So yeah, basically our amplitude is too hot. And it's all kind of angling in the same direction too. So yeah, not horrible, but not great. Clicky clicky. I guess I'm thinking that our amplitude, let's roll this down to 3.5 maybe. And this one, insofar as the y-axis is concerned, let's change that one to 4, but let's also give it a little bit more of an offset, like 2.8. And I just typed that, and the typing did not take. There it is. They kind of overlap each other. Let's see what happens if we just change this. Let's go from 0.1 to 0.2. Okay, that does seem to offset it. 0.5. Yeah, it also smooths it out a little bit, but that might be okay in this case. We'll see. Yeah, it's still way too big in the Y. And well, and I said this yesterday actually, is that this is a case where this is one of those rare cases where changing my frame rate from 8 to 12 might not be a bad idea, because I just don't know if he actually is going to be able to shake quick enough to get the effect I was looking for. So Coffee Cage says, how long has BlendedPlanet been making OpenToonz videos? About 2 years. Assume starting at frame 1, going to frame 10 for the range of keyframes in the center where you're thinking. You guys are unpacking it, I think, pretty well. So I'm not gonna. I'm gonna go ahead and turn my webcam back on. I'm back, people. I'm back. Here I am. Okay, so this would be my judgment at this point in time. It's pretty cool, but it's not that cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do this manually. Now, we do have a decision to make here. Do I want to go to a separate do I want to go ahead and let this loop? Where is the oh, there it is. Okay, I see the problem. I've got a little bit of a stupid attack here going on. Okay, now they've got this in here. If I just want him to oh, Dave, I've made a lot of mistakes here because I'm looking at the wrong thing. Okay, so what I want to do is have that's really all I wanted actually, and so I click this little icon because that makes it loop. And then what it's going to do is when we get to here, what I need to do is hit insert and actually just take this part of the sub-X sheet and move it to another level so that it's not being affected by the Animate tool. And that's kind of interesting. I didn't know it was going to duplicate the keys. Okay, that's all right. So that worked. That worked. I'm going to go with that for now. I think that actually feels about right. The expression editor is cool, and I definitely want to fiddle with it a little more. But for today, it's slowing me down more than it's helping me. It just is. So, being the pragmatic animator, I want to just say, you know, let's cut our losses here a little bit and get back to work. Okay, with that in mind, what do we got to do? Well, let me look at this. We've got the, if we look at this in previewed mode, we need to do our bloom effect, and we really need to just capture this, right? And so this can be, the effect can be put on the entire scene. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add Dave's bloom like so, and kind of see what we get. Okay, and as you can see, it's picking up too much of Vespar. So what I want to do is explode the macro effect so that I can then edit the levels and make an adjustment here. Yeah, there's your problem. So what we have is a situation where we want to pick up the highlight in the window, but we don't want to pick up Vespar's costuming. So now what we have to do is kind of, there we go. See, I just need to shift this north a little bit. And we'll see if it's going to be possible to get his face masked out. It's going to be tricky, I mean, but it looks like I found it. Looks like I've got it. Yep. So that's the typical. What I am going to do, let's go down into the sub-X sheet. Yep. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to explode this sub-X sheet so I have a little more control, the sub-scene. I'm going to explode it. And now what Tahoma has done is create a group out of it for me. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and ungroup them. So now I've got, these are all of Vespar's levels that we have back together. Okay, so this level adjustment that I just did looks good, so we can reconnect the whole thing. The problem is we're going to get a glow on Vespar's eyes. So this is why I've done it this way, is so that I can now, believe it or not, I'm going to take the whole scene as mixed and I'm going to comp over it just his eyes. Okay, so layer blending INO over. And where the heck are you, over? I don't want INO. Usually I just use the layer blending over. Okay. So source 1 is going to be over top of source 2. So we want our output with the effect to be source 2. And I probably, once again, should label my columns. So his eyes are going to be source 1. And the whole rest of the scene is going to be source 2. And that just gives me a simple way to take his eyes out of the bloom calculation. Okay? So hence, when he goes and opens the door and whatnot, we're going to see a crazy bloom when he swings this open, or at least we should. Yeah, okay, so that's pretty out of control. Having said that, when this renders, honestly, that's not too bad. We just need to, okay, so that is actually not too bad. What I want to do is two things. One is we can either temper down the way that it adds over onto itself to build up that bloom, or we can just turn our levels down. Now, when I was adjusting the levels, I turned the RGB output up all the way. And normally that's not what you have. What you would have would be something more like this. There we go. Okay, so by basically turning up or down this light area that's masked out, we can control how much of the bloom we actually get. So that looks pretty good. When we go back here to the beginning, we should see, yeah, we see a little bit of the bloom. You could animate it, by the way. I'm not gonna in this case. I don't much see the point. What I really want to see is that effect. I'm going to hit Control R so we can look at it rendered. What I really want to see is the effect when he swings the window open and you just get that really blown out window look. It'll be pretty cool. So let's go boom. Not bad, not bad. I think we could turn it up. The only issue I have is that his by exploding the sub X sheet, I destroyed his shake animation, but that's going to be easy to recover. So what do we got to do? Number one, we need to actually crank this level back up more. Crank that up higher. I really want it to be blown out when he opens the window. Okay? Meaning, we get here, I want that real blown out effect. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Okay, so the thing missing is the shake. So what I'm going to do is apply the shake to his body level and then connect the other important levels up to it, which means I don't want to be in my effects schematic. I want to be in my state schematic. Okay, it happens that this is already grouped. We don't really have a good way to actually apply animation keys to that group, though, so I'm going to just ungroup it. And I'm actually gonna, what the heck, get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. So what I want to do is animate his body and then connect these other two levels to the body, and that should do the trick. Okay, so let's turn the preview off so we can get to the point where he goes, all right, and then what we're going to do is we're going to hit the A key to animate, and we're just going to move him a little bit, move him a little bit, and then click this so that it continues on. Okay, see, there's kind of a tug of war here going on. Quick question, does column 6 or column 7 take priority for overlapping? Okay, Smog in 11, if you're not overriding it through the schematic, because you can completely change the ordering in which things are composited here in the effects schematic. Okay? If you don't do that, which in many cases you wouldn't, then the stacking is from left to right. So the stuff that's on the right is laid over top of what's at the left. That's why my backgrounds are always in the leftmost column, and typically mouths and eyes and things that, little bits that animate over top of a character or whatever, typically are on the right. Okay? So I think that answers your question. Okay, so the tug of war I mentioned a moment ago is this. Because we have to link these levels together, what we're going to have to do is actually take all three of these levels and copy them over to another level if we want the animation to stop. Because right now, because of this little icon here, the animation of his body just keeps repeating. Okay, and you can see that we need to link his eyes and his mouth to or his shadow, I should say, to him. So let's do that first, and then we'll look at what the other issue is that we're going to have to confront here a little bit. So we don't want to be in the effects schematic. We want to click this little icon and be in the stage schematic. The stage schematic is all about structure, the structure of your scene. Okay? So column 4 is the one that's animated. Column 5 is his shadow, and obviously it's already labeled. This is his eyes. So by linking these two together, the rest of his body is going to inherit his animation. And as you can see, that worked fine. Okay? So now the problem is, well, at this point, right here, we want the animation to stop. So we have a choice. We can either, well, actually, I don't think we actually need to duplicate these levels. All I need to do is duplicate this, make a blank level, and just move these cells over. Because, well, no, that's not right. That's not right, because the parenting in the stage schematic is on the basis of the levels. So if I move this over, we're going to have to then delete this. I'm kind of surprised, actually, that it's duplicating the animation keys. So shake, shake, shake. Then he stops, turns around, and everything works. So yeah, all we had to do is move the body over here so that now the parenting relationship is effectively canceled out. So okay, so this is actually a little strange to me. because I think that it's the right decision as far as the design of the software, because what's going on here is you've got this level that has this animation data, and the animation data never stops. However, once there's no image data in that column, it stops passing the animation data onto these other levels. So that's actually, I think that is the right choice, because it causes the software to work intuitively the way I hoped it would, right? So, okay, so yeah, no problem, Smug and Levin. Hey, if I can answer the questions, I'm happy to. So now I need to check my render settings, my output setting. Everything's good. Everything's good. I think we can do a render and pop this into the show and see what we've got. So let's go over here. And okay, I have not actually placed this image sequence in the show yet. So this, and this are the storyboard shots that I just animated. So now what I'm going to do is let's load up scene number, what was it, 537. It should be the last one in my folders. Yep, numerically. So we go render. It's a 71 frame sequence, which is supposed to be interpreted at 8 frames per second. And again, we got to scan down here because we just reopened Vegas, so we got to re-find our place in the media pool. And there it is. So there's the shot. Properties, disable resample, and now not too bad, not too bad. Once he leaves, there's pretty much no reason to keep the shot going. So boop, because we're going to be jumping. Actually, we're not even going to be jumping back to TNR. We're actually going to be jumping to Mel, who's sitting outside the tent kind of hearing all this going on. So let's jump back to here. We'll put this in full resolution mode so we can just kind of look and see what we have. And by the way, this shot I did the other day, not this one but the next one, I'm actually thinking it may wind up getting cut out of the show. We'll see. I mean, it's pretty sloppy, and because it was sort of a little bit of a comical effect, I kind of sloughed it off a bit, and not sure I did the greatest job. Okay, I know what's missing though. There is one thing missing in the scene that we'll get here to in half a second, which is that I never did the color correction and the body highlight on Vespar. Yeah, see, that's missing. That's glaringly absent, actually. Okay, actually, I was wrong. Okay, I was wrong. Holy smokes. If we look closely, look at what happened. Watch. Look at that, see? The animation stopped, but his body kept, or his eyes kept animating. Now, one could argue that that's kind of a funny effect. I actually think I'm going to leave that at the moment. I'm going to leave that. I don't think that's actually necessarily a bad thing. So, having said that, so yeah, this animation data does propagate through to these levels, even though there's no picture data. So what I said before was dead wrong. It's just that it didn't show up until I rendered. Okay, so sorry about that. So the solution to that problem, if you wanted to solve it, would be to hit Control-C, Control-V, and just copy all these keyframes down to here and then not have them continue like this. So, not too big of a pain. But there it is, and then turn this off so that it doesn't keep looping. And having done that, there's no reason to have this stuff in a separate level. So shake, 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 and then he stops. Okay. Cool. So now, what was the other thing? Oh yeah, the rim light. Okay, so with that, we can just delete this column because it's just taking up space for no good reason. And what do we have? Oh yeah, this is where he turns around and opens the curtain. Okay, so body highlight. It's this level, it's V1. And what we want to do is go back to our effects schematic. Take V1, and before we feed it into here, Okay, now this is an interesting conundrum again, now that I think about it. When we add the body highlight, it's probably going to foul up our glow, because the glow is calculated on the whole scene to get that masking of just the exit area out of the tent. So what we probably need to do here is we want to do a light effect of body highlight. Ah, shoot. Yeah, we can do this. We can do this. I'm going to run this to the scene so that it's running in both directions. And the body highlight, I'm actually going to put over top of the whole scene. So we're going to have body highlight over top of the eyes, over top of the whole scene. So that lets us use the body highlight without it screwing up our glow effect. Hope that's clear. I know it's probably kind of confusing, but this is the power of node-based compositing, actually. Now, as you can see, that actually caused a problem. It would appear that we've got some of our layering wrong. Let's put the eyes on top. Oh, wait. Okay, hold on a second. This should not be going to here. And the eyes should actually be on top, I think, with the body highlight under it, and then the overall scene under that. So this for Smog and 11, this shows you how you can completely change the way the compositing works. But if you go with the defaults, see, now it worked. If you go with the defaults, however, you're going to, it's always going to be a left to right stack situation where the stuff on the right is on top. So yeah, the only other thing we need to tweak then is the body highlight effect itself, which for me, we can turn the schematic off. So for me is a little bit too aggressive. I'm thinking let's do offsets of about 8. Yes, and let's turn the transparency. I think the main thing is the blur. There's too much blur on that. I want that to be a crisper. Yeah, that's better. Okay, that's pretty crisp. Let's see what happens if we crank it. You know, there's a case to be made for actually allowing the body highlight to be influenced by the glow effect. But I think in this case, I'm going to probably pass on that. Okay, so there's one more thing I want to do to Vespar. Basically, overall, I want to tamp down his color a little bit. Since we're using the body highlight, yeah, I would just say right here, let's just insert an image adjustment, adjust levels. And my thinking, I'll kind of scoot over here so we can see what we're doing. But my thinking is let's just turn down his RGB levels a bit. Hello? Don't you be doing anything. Do you need to re-wake up here? What did I do wrong here? That's interesting. Okay. So this is why I was disappointed when I popped up the body highlight effect, because okay, so the body highlight effect is a pretty smart effect. It's basically taking your imagery and making its magic, which in this case is kind of a bad thing, because what that means is that the signal flow going through this plugin includes the whole picture of the character plus the body highlight on top of it. I would like it better if we could separate those outputs, because the problem is that all of his RGB color is being piped in here and in here. Probably the solution is to, since this seems to be taking precedence, let me see something here. What happens if we take this out completely? Okay, doesn't really seem to matter. So, yes, so what we'll do is we'll actually put that color correction in here. There we go. We'll adjust the levels here. So again, what I'm trying to do is just tamp down his overall RGB levels so he sits in the mix better. And then the body highlight effect is a little more, yeah, there we go. Now we're getting somewhere. You know, with the caveat being that his eyes look like they're glowing a bit now. But in this case, because he's so irritated, that might actually not be too bad. Why don't we just compensate for that at the palette and call it good? What did you just say, Dave? I don't know what you just said. What I said was, let's grab this color right here, which is the whites of his eyes, and just turn it down. Ta-da! So, obviously that's too much, but you get the idea. So yeah, probably something like that. Looks pretty good. I like it. Well, maybe not. 80? Let's crank this down to 75. It's pretty subtle difference. Yeah, that's probably better. Cool beans. Okay, so now, all right, I thought that effect was deliberate. I miss when you had repeat on for those animation keys. The random function for shake uses the first and last keyframe of your range to set how long it's in effect. Right, well that makes sense. That is coming later because that looks complicated. Yeah, you working with the schematic, you mean? Yeah, it is. You kind of have to wrap your head around it, especially because there's two different schematics. The stage schematic, whoops. The stage schematic affects the structure of your scene. In other words, what levels are controlling others, so that, like, if I animate this level, which I did, these guys get dragged along for the ride. Whereas the effects schematic has to do with the image, the signal flow of the imagery that's being piped out and ultimately rendered. So, you know, I could spend a bit of time going through and explaining what all these different things do, but you're right. The simplest solution probably for you at this point is just use the stacking order here, and probably the next most useful thing for you to learn, I would guess, is probably to use subscenes, meaning take a bunch of levels that you kind of want to work as a collective unit, as a single unit, and go collapse. And when you collapse them, they actually become just one column that you can kind of go into, that it's a nested. It's like scenes inside of scenes nested. And that can be a really good organizational tool. So, all right, so let's save all, Control-Shift-R, and I actually think we're done on this shot. There it goes. It is rendering. And let's come over here. Let's look at TNR's. Boy, I love her expression on that shot. And then we go back to Vespar. What? Okay, I see a problem. I do see a problem. Right here. Ah, these effects. Wow, those effects are actually affecting the body highlight, the glow. That's not really acceptable. We can't have that. So we're going to have to fix it. Always something to fix. And unfortunately, in this case, the solution... Yeah, that's too bad. Oh, man. Okay, guys. So we've got a little bit of a... We have an organizational disaster here. First of all, we're going to solve it this way. Okay, so what's going on is, the problem is that I put these effects in the same level as his eyes. That was a mistake. I shouldn't have done that. But we can fix it. Okay, so step one is, I don't think the red effect is working anyway. This is not working. So I'm going to hit the eraser. We're going to erase lines and areas, and we're just going to get rid of this. It was a cool idea, and in many circumstances it would be the right idea, but in this case I think it's the wrong idea. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I want to keep this as simple and as organized as possible. So I'm going to insert a new level, hit the B key, and just draw, essentially draw a dot. Boop, I drew a dot. Okay, we don't actually see, well, we do see the dot, so erase the dot. But now we've created a new level. So now what I can do is go into here, hit the selection tool, grab this, cut that to the clipboard, and I'm again hitting the selection tool and pasting it in here. Now I'm going to do the same thing with this. Control X. I'm going to go here. I'll just hit the B key again and create another, just click outside of the frame so it creates another image. And then I'm going to hit the S key and paste it in. Okay, so now this has been effectively removed from these frames because these are just duplicates of the ones up here. So now if I go ahead and go Control C, VVV, and it looks like we need one more copy of the first one here. Oh, no, no, that's not right. That does not belong. Okay, so now we should be able to take this and comp it over everything, and hopefully it will not affect the glow. So I'm gonna call that effects so I can find it in the schematic. Let's switch back to rendered mode and see what we have here. Okay, that's looking okay. Everything's looking good. Let's go here. And what we're looking for is whether that yellow is affecting the glow. So kind of letting it render. Nope, it is affecting the glow. Okay, so that means we got to go yet again into our effects schematic, and we basically need to do the same thing we did before, which is take the effects and just smack them. Unfortunately, I've got to restack this completely. So we're going eyes, body highlight, scene. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to take the effects and put it on top, followed by the eyes, followed by the body, followed by the overall scene. And now we should have the effect in there, and it won't affect the glow thing that we had. So I'm just going to go ahead and render it and see if it worked. I'm pretty sure it did. So here we go. Ba-da-bum, ba-dum-bum. What? And the effects are missing. Darn it, it's still... Why in the world are we losing the glow there? Why is it responding to that when this effect is not the eyes? I'm sorry. I just found the problem right there. It was going both into the scene and into the overlay. So my apologies, guys. That's, as is usually the case, the boo-boo was completely my fault. So sorry. But now, is it going to be fixed? Don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be fixed. Okay, so there was one other problem, which is that this effect was actually supposed to start further north up here. And so I'm going to take a chance and say this probably belongs there. Grab this, Control C, Control V. I'm going to do it again. And then right here we stop it like that. And I'll bet you our shot looks correct now. I'll bet you dollars to donuts, as they say. Let's find out. Here it comes. Okay, it does look right. There's a few things that still need some work, though. First of all, why am I seeing this? Looks like there might be... It looks like I messed up when I... What are the odds? When I selected the little color things, I inadvertently copied a little piece of eye. Oh dear. We can't have random eyes floating around, can we? That would be bad. Bad with a capital T. Okay, so if anyone knows where the quote, trouble with a capital M comes from, I'll give you a brownie point. It's from a show I used to really enjoy back in the day. Watching it with my kids, actually. So, okay, why don't you just glow, glow, glow? Oh, baby. Okay. The effect are affecting the effects in a non-effective manner. Well, yeah, except Amar, you spelled effective wrong. That would be effective with an E. Well, I don't know. Actually, arguably, for the little smart alecky statement you're making, you're actually, I think your spelling is actually correct. Because non-effective would mean proactively affecting it as opposed to being effective, you know, with an E. So we're into some semantics here today. We're into semantics. Okay. We're almost done, actually. And to kind of speak to Amar's unspoken question, we're using the glow just because throughout this scene, the prince has been standing in front of this sort of crack in the doorway. And so the only thing that is a little problematic here is that this right here, what is going on there? Why are we seeing those lines? That's what I have to figure out. So I'm going to start turning levels off. I'm pretty sure I know where it is, but see, this level's turned off. It's not the sketch layer, so where the heck are those lines coming from? Kind of weird. Kind of weird. Well, let's do this. Let's turn the render off. Okay, I can still see them. When the heck did I put those lines in there? Oh, I know what those are. My bad. As usual. Here's what it is. It's here. I forgot I put these guidelines in the... Dave! To quote Edgar Bergen, so Amar will remember this quote probably because he's a little older like me, is, Mortimer, how do you get to be so stupid? And to which Mortimer says, I got someone helping me. Who said that? That's the question. Well, who said that? Do you guys know who said that? If nobody guesses within a minute. And by the way, we've got OBS just disconnected and reconnected, so I'm going to restate the question. All right, so the question was, I've actually had two pop culture references here. The first one was, who said, oh, this means, I'm going to use the voice so that it'll give it away maybe. This means trouble with a capital M. So what's that from? Was the first one. And the second one was the voice of the guy that says, Mortimer, why are you so stupid? To which Mortimer says, well, I got someone helping me. Okay, so if anyone knows either one of those completely unrelated pop culture references, I'll give you the no prize. I'll give you Stan Lee's no prize, which of course is no prize. But two pop culture references in one day. How exciting that you got two pop culture references in a single day. Guys? I mean, kind of thought it was done, but golly. It just goes to show the more complex you get with your effects and whatnot, the more you have to sort of solve problems. Because for all the world, it appears to me that the little yellow effect is triggering the glow. And I swear that does not make any sense. But let's just see what's going on here. Whoops, I didn't want that. I wanted this. Okay. So now if we look at our scene, the effects is the little yellow things. So if I actually turn this into render mode so I can see them, this is very strange. Okay, so there's the effect. And if I turn it off in the schematic, which you guys can't see at the moment, okay, it did not cause the glow to change. So something else is wrong. Okay, so we're unpacking this. That means something else would appear to be feeding through and affecting the glow. Which is, oh, wait a minute. Let me think about this. Because right now, the glow is being calculated without taking this into account at all. None of this counts. Right? Turn you off. Okay. So the glow is being calculated based on all of this. So what is going, let's leave the prints out for the moment and ask ourselves, why the heck would we see the glow? I'm going to just go ahead and do a pre-render on this. Why would we see the glow at a certain level that changes right here? When you'd say, well, it's because he's covering up most of that big long strip, right? Oh, that's what it is. That's what it is. There you go. Duh. All right, let's go back to the schematic. I know what the problem is, people. You know, this is just like programming, actually. Hunting down bugs. I'm hunting down bugs here. Okay, yeah, so what's going on is once we get to here, we shifted to this Vespar level, which remains a sub X sheet. I gotta check something. Is that even supposed to be in there? I don't think it is. I think this is erroneous at this point. Okay, so I'm gonna, on my other screen, I'm turning Vespar back on the earlier levels. So there he is, and now the, yeah, unfortunately the cache is gonna have to refresh. So what I did was I took, there we go. Sorry. Okay. So now the question is, I'm having to remember what I did. When he's going through here, he's got the shake, shake, shake. Correct. And then the question is, when we get to here, because I exploded the sub X sheet, do we actually need... Yeah, this sub X sheet is contributing nothing. It was redundant. Yep. There we go. Problem solved. Get rid of that. And this we never use, so we'll get rid of that too, as long as we're, you know, randomly getting rid of things. Let's get rid of everything that's erroneous in our scene. And let's go to Panels, Scene Cast, and remove all unused levels. So now we've got a clean scene. Let's save it. And after we save it, we will render. Okay, the Mortimer? No, that's not Scooby-Doo. Nope. The key in that one is what he says to him. Mortimer, very gentle voice. Mortimer, why are you so stupid? And then Mortimer says, well, I got someone helping me. Who is Mortimer, and who is he talking to? That's the question. That's the mystery of the day. All right, so we're going to go back here and see if this looks right. I'm ready to scream. Because look, it still looks like it's being affected by the glowies. Yeah, I have to say from a post-production, like post-production effects, color correction, you know, vantage point, this is probably one of the most frustrating scenes I've worked on in months. You know, because I'm looking at the signal flow and very, very strange. I'm looking at the cached. I'm letting the cache refresh, and right now we're seeing very consistent lighting, okay? Consistent, consistent, consistent. Everything's good. And so now we're looking for that change. Da-da-da-da-da. And then right here, it did not change this time. So that's bizarre. Okay, but there it did. So what just changed? What just covered him up? Or does the cache just need to refresh? It looks like it's just a cache refresh. This is one of OpenToonz' glaring weaknesses, by the way, and Tahoma, is that the cache doesn't like refresh in the background, so you actually have to play through it to get all the effects, you know, to look the way they're really going to look, because it keeps it in memory, and then it has to, and it's when you actually toggle through it that it kind of like updates it. It appears to me that everything's back to normal, or everything's fixed. I am not seeing that lighting change. I assume you guys could see it, but every other time when this little yellow effect stops, the lighting changes. Now it looks right. So why would it have not rendered correctly, and yet it looks right here in the preview? That's a little strange. Yeah, OpenToonz do be kind of wacky, though. Yes, Kite Kitty, I agree. Sounds a bit Hanna-Barbera-ish. Okay, so the first one, I'm going back here and looking at some of these. She said that 5 times fast. I said that. The effect are affecting the effects in a non-effective manner. The effect are affecting the effects in a non-effective manner. The effect are affecting the effects in a non-effective manner. The effect are affecting the effects in a non-effective manner. The effect are affecting the effects in a non-effective manner. That wasn't too bad. Okay, so the first one was, what did he say? Yeah, we're in trouble with a capital M. Who said that? I'll give you a hint. It was an early CGI TV show. Very early CGI TV show. 1990s, actually. And the other quote from that same character is, "We're all gonna die." That should be a giveaway for most of you. Especially if I tag the hint with, saying something like this. Yes. Yes. Vermin. Yeah. So that's pretty much a giveaway. That's the easier one, I would think, for people that are on my channel. The other one, the Mortimer one, is pretty obscure, because now you're going back to the 1950s for that one. Okay, guys, I re-rendered it, and let's see what happened. If the render does not look right, I'm going to be freaking out. Ah, it's correct. It's fixed. Okay, so now there is a case to be made, by the way, just for the record, of splitting things up so that actually the body highlight gets turned off when you get to this point right here. But I think I'm just going to live with it. So yeah. We're all going to die. Yes. The voices. The voices. The voices. It's all about the voices. It's all about the voices, isn't it? Okay. All right. How we doing on our chit chat here? Live streaming. We got 10 concurrent viewers. Holy smokes! Wow, dudes. Well, thanks everybody for being here. Who's Kite Kitty? Kite Kitty, you're new. Welcome to the party. Welcome to the party, dude. Or babe, or whatever you are. I don't know. Usually when somebody's got Kitty in their name, that, in my experience, normally turns out to be a female character. You're doing? Are you like into My Hero Academia? Fun show. Well done show. Excellent show. This is where we kind of entered the tent. And Tianara is getting a little bit of guidance from Fala, the slave woman. There's a few things about this shot and the other shots that use the same pose that I would like to improve a bit. Beavis and Butthead? Oh, dude, come on. I'm kind of new, been here for a bit, haven't talked. Right on. Right on, Kitty. Let's see here. Let's see. So monkey. So we're getting into the whole tent thing, because the monkey smells this stuff, and he gets excited. Ooh. So he's going to see what he can find down there. Meanwhile, Mel has appeared, and he's... Which, by the way, that shot should probably be redone to show Mel approaching the Now he's remembering Asher telling him, it's absolutely essential that letter not fall into the wrong hands. And the problem is the letter fell into the monkey's hands. So now Mel's got to get it back. That's an actual watercolor painting, by the way, that I did on actual watercolor paper. So Mel is lamenting his fate. Little help, he says, up to the heavens, and this is what he gets from the heavens. Not much. I'm just not feeling it. I gotta get that letter back. And the monkey slips in the tent. Why, that dirty little... I can't remember what his dialogue is, but... Monkey goes in the tent, sees something that looks real good, discards the bag that has the letter that he's got to get back. So now Mel's chasing after him, but then he hears something inside the tent. And this is the bad guy, Golik, who's kind of lecturing the girl who is essentially being forced to marry the prince against her will. It's like an arranged marriage situation, right? And she notices Monkey in the tent. It's coming together. Coming together. And then she notices that, which is her possible avenue of escape. So she's kind of having this little discussion with the bad guy and decides to kind of play along to buy herself some time. So that's kind of what's going on here. So she goes all nicey-nicey, which of course Golik's no idiot, so he knows what. So she's complimentary to him, but he's a pragmatist. He doesn't, you know, if she wants to act goofy, he doesn't care as long as he's getting his plan moving forward. So, yeah, that's kind of fun to review here and kind of see what I've done over the last couple of weeks. A few weeks, actually. And now she's getting serious about her avenue of exit. And look at that. So Mel sees all this flopping around. And he thinks it's the monkey. That is one resourceful monkey. Meanwhile, the prince shows up at the front end of the tent, which means she better get back into her place. And he overhears that. He hears the guard announcing the prince. So he knows he's kind of in the wrong place because you really don't want to cross this guy since he's the prince. And Mel's just a kind of a nobody, you know, really. So now you got this sort of negotiation between the prince and Tianara. So at this point, we're about 6 minutes away from having episode 2 done. So we're making very good progress. Hey, Darren. Hey, can I ask my question that I posted on the Discord? It was regarding development. My question is simply this. Have you ever had a scenario where it's desirable for resequencing to not occur? Because every scenario I can think of, and certainly every scenario I've ever encountered, is if I go down into a subscene and change some animation, of course I want it to propagate up to the upper level of animation. So I suggested on the Discord that it seems to me that a very minor improvement in Tahoma would be, because what happened yesterday is a really easy problem to bump into as far as not resequencing a subscene, and you almost have to just trip over the answer. I mean, it's a really hard answer to find because you don't even know how to ask the question, you know? Dark Snake, or whatever his name was, did a pretty good job of asking the question, but it seems to me that what should happen is when you edit a subscene, there's a flag that marks it as dirty, and when you come up out of the subscene, that triggers an event that automatically does the resequencing. So that may be a bad idea. I just can't think of why it would be. I can't think of one scenario where I would not want resequencing to occur. So I thought I'd throw that at you, and if you agree, then you may suggest that to Mahjong or whatever his name is. So, but yeah, unfortunately, Darren, we are getting close to the end of the line here on this today, at least this session. I'm thinking I'm gonna wrap it up and get some lunch here shortly. So he gets rigid with her. She starts to get snarky, so their whole interaction is becoming more and more inflamed, and then he finally doesn't even know what to do, and he just gets and turns around and basically leaves the room. And that's where we're at. And Mel overheard that, obviously, and he's going, ooh, ouch. And so now the next section, the next stuff we're going to be doing is going to be a lot of fun, because you see Tianara then kind of checks to make sure the coast is clear, and she sees these swords mounted up on a thing, and you smash zoom into a close-up of her. She grabs the sword. This is actually super cool. The sequence is going to be a lot of fun to animate. So she gets out. Mel's still thinking it's the monkey, but then he realizes he sees a human hand, so it's like, oh, I better get out of Dodge. So he jumps up here, climbs up this little ledge that he originally came down, and he's peeking over. And, of course, now she comes out, and he sees her, and he's like, oh, it's her, you know, kind of thing. She kind of looks around, sees the same avenue of escape that Mel used. There it is. And now, yeah, this shot is not needed. So now he's peeking up over, and she's peeking up over, and boom, they see each other. They're like face to face, and blah, kind of thing. Hey, watch where you're pointing that thing. Who are you? Me? I'm nobody. You did not see me. And then, hey, no problem, right? And so then she's gone. She's gone. And then he remembers the mission. He's got to get back to, I got to get that letter still, right? So there's where we're at. So back to Tahoma here. Back to Tahoma. I need to stop this, though. Okay, now I'm going to check the chat and probably wrap it up. I've just got on my bus to go home. I saw that message. I'll answer fully on Discord, but yes, I don't always want resequence. So that's what I would like to know. I would like to know, what's the scenario you've encountered where resequencing turned out to be a bad idea? Yeah, I suppose the middle ground would be something that just clues you that you would want to resequence it. Like I said, it's just because it's an obscure feature. I remember I struggled with it until I think it was you a long, long time ago that pointed it out to me. You know, how would you even know that there was something you needed to do that hadn't been done, right? You wouldn't know. All you know is your animation isn't propagating up through the sub-scene, and you have no idea why. I can't imagine thinking, oh, well, maybe if I click here, there's some like menu option that somehow fixes that problem. At least for me, my brain would never go there quite in that way. So, it's just one man's opinion. But so what did we get done today so far in 2 hours? Well, we got 7 seconds, so not amazing, but not bad. Okay, yeah, that's fine, Darren. And Tom, that could be something like the indicator that shows a change was made in a file. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking. It's just, that's why I said it'd be like a flag that says the subscene is dirty and it needs to be refreshed in some way. Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. It's something everyone fails to know how to do. I think that's a very good way of putting it. It's just one of those things that you have to just trip over the answer somehow. Or do what Darksnake did, which was ask on a place like this and hope the people there happen to know the answer. Because it's just such a weird thing to... let's put it this way. The default behavior of the software, the default behavior, is decidedly non-intuitive. I can't imagine ever expecting that if I made a change in a subscene that it would not propagate up through the parent scene. I just can't imagine it. So you're trying to solve. It's very strange. It's a good example of where framing a problem and how you ask the question can really help with figuring out what the answer is, you know. Indicator and then a mouse over tooltip with an explanation and a link to the command. Correct. Tom is pretty much spot on as far as what I think would make sense. Another middle ground might be that when you come up out of a subscene, if you've changed the animation, when you actually go like this to pop up out of it, I'm not big on pop-ups, but it's probably the rare case where either a pop-up or, as kind of Tom's alluding to, some sort of color indicator that tells you something's wrong that needs to be corrected. And then if you mouse over it, it gives you the explanation with the tooltip. That would be a good middle ground. If it was me, probably the default would be to resequence automatically. But the problem is that if that was the default, that introduces the problem of now you have to trip over knowing both how and when to turn that off. So, but that's true with, I mean, a program as big and complicated as Tahoma, there are a lot of options, like in the preferences and things, where if you don't do your homework, read the docs, and really grok through what things do, there's lots of stuff in the software that you wouldn't have a clue what it does or why it's there or anything. So, and that's not a criticism. I mean, I think it's an unavoidable price you pay for having very, very capable, complex software. You know, Blender is obviously the same way, probably arguably quite a bit worse, actually, in terms of learning curve. So anyway, that's it for me. I'm signing off, guys. We got a 25-second delay on the stream, so you're hearing me almost half a minute late at this point. But anyway, you guys have been great. It's been fun. I appreciate you hanging out. Glad we were able to get this shot done. I'm happy with it.